Hello everyone, thank you for joining the session. Today I will be demonstrating few things which can actually help us to bypass the WAF detection when we are trying to upload web shell or when we have arbitrary code execution vulnerability on the server. So there is a pre-assumption that web application or target web server is actually vulnerable to file upload or code execution. The thing is, when we are trying to upload a web shell or when we are trying to perform code execution, in that case, web application firewall is detecting our payload and saying, no, you are not allowed. So how to tackle that situation? Because we know once we have identified there is a file upload issue or there is code execution issue, we just don't want to give up because that's a gold mine. Because once we get the foothold, we can do post exploitation and other thing. So how to tackle this type of thing? I will be demonstrating using few tricks. So my name is Manish and I am working at MDSec. Mostly I am just pen testing web applications, network infra, that's all. So before starting, just want to introduce what is WAF. So web application firewall is well known, and nowadays almost every company, every organization is putting WAF in front of web server just to provide an extra layer of security. So it's like for most of the attacks, it's just defending web server against those things. It actually inspects the traffic. It recognizes whether it is malicious traffic or not by using some signatures. And if it is malicious, WAF is just dropping the traffic. And the best thing about WAF is if we are having good hold, we can write our own rules, we can write our own signature to identify the attacks, and we can even write signatures to detect zero-day attacks. So let's say if when log4j was discovered, so people started developing signatures just to prevent their server from log4j vulnerability attack. So this is the thing. You can say like WAF is all about this thing. So in presentation, I will be demonstrating few things, and those things are: first step, when we are trying to upload a web shell, web application firewall is detecting, okay, this traffic is actually containing web shell, dropping the request, how to bypass that one. Second scenario is, let's say we manage to bypass the first scenario and we have uploaded web shell, we are trying to access it, but again web application firewall is saying, okay, you managed to upload web shell, but I have recognized this is web shell, please stop. And third one is, let's say we have managed to bypass scenario 1, scenario 2. When we are performing something, let's say we are trying to execute command, we are trying to browse some directory, we are trying to do something which is actually the sole purpose of a web shell. In that case, if web application is saying, okay, you have managed to upload web shell, I was not able to figure it out, but now you are trying to do something which actually I can recognize that it is related to web shell, so you are blocked. So how to bypass these things when we have RC vulnerability on the server? So let's start with the first one. So I am just considering the case of PHP. Similar things we can do in JSP or ASP or any other programming language. We just need to figure out the dots and we just need to connect, but things will be similar. So let's say when we are trying to upload a web shell, so how actually web application firewall will be detecting? So just this is the fact. Web application firewalls are all about keywords, signature, pattern. What we are going to do, we just going to do something. Firewall will be confused. It won't be able to recognize the pattern. So everyone is aware of C99, R57, B374K. I'm not going to use them in first stage. Why? Because that code base is huge. If I'm going to recode it, if I'm going to change everything, it will take ages. Plus, I'm not sure which part of web shell is actually getting detected. So I will be using some other tricks. So let's say in this case, first of all, just want to highlight a few things. In PHP, when we are saying system and then command, we can actually write it like this as well. We can actually say system function in this one, and then we can say, okay, whatever the value in this one, please come here. This is actually a pattern breaking thing, and firewall cannot detect it. So people may say, okay, this is simple thing, we can detect it, like system.assist.term, but no, there is more. If you want to make it more complicated, we can. So let's say if I say string reverse, then system. So I have written system in reverse and then passing this keyword to strrev, which is actually going to reverse it. And then I'm going to say, okay, use this one. So again, if you want to make it more complicated, you can do string replace or other thing. So there is no way you can simply write some WAF signature to detect this type of pattern. But I want to load a full web shell, and how to do that without uploading. So I just came up with this idea. I'm not going to upload a web shell directly, but I will upload a shell which will call another web shell, will hold the content of that web shell in session variable, and then will evaluate it. Because using this trick, we are actually not uploading web shell, but we are uploading a code which is not detectable, and using this code, we are saying, okay, code, please fetch the web shell from this URL, hold it in session variable, and execute it. So it will be like, till the moment we are using our web browser, the web shell is accessible. The moment we are going to say, okay, session end, that web shell will be deleted from server. Antivirus is going to scan this file. Nothing is there. It's not malicious. So this is something which we can use to bypass detection phase 1 when we are uploading a web shell. So this is smallest code, and you can load full web shell. So you just need to specify the URL and just click the button. It will load the shell. This interface will be changed into the full web shell. The second thing is, let's say when we have uploaded a web shell, now the thing is, when this web shell has been uploaded, so there is a rule in web application firewall. It's like it's inspecting the outgoing traffic. So let's say whatever the HTTP response is, it is just inspecting whether it is some PHP source code or some file which is leaking some data. So in that case, this web shell can be detected because of the presence of the keywords. So let's say if C99 keyword is present in HTTP response, it is going to get detected. So this rule is actually not good one, and you can bypass it easily by just performing Control F shell, replace it with sh3ll. So let's say in this scenario, when I try to access a web shell containing keyword B374K in title, so this mode security application firewall actually triggered and said, okay, this request has been blocked because it contains a keyword which has been flagged. So this log is actually saying it's been blocked because of the presence of this keyword. We can bypass this rule easily by just changing the keywords in web shell. But I will be showing something different. We need not to do, because we are not going to modify web shell completely. We will be doing some other things to avoid all this type of thing. The moment I change the word B374K with box, it's accessible. Now, this one is a little bit interesting. This is something which is simply can't be done without knowledge of programming, but this is the good one. So let's say web application firewall has been bypassed in scenario 1 and 2. Now, when we are trying to execute OS command, when we are trying to download a file, when we are trying to do some other thing. So in that case, whatever we are doing through that web shell interface, it is actually making HTTP request, and it is containing those commands, directory name, file name, or the data is present in HTTP response. In that case, firewall is saying, hold on dude, you have been come so far, but I know these things. These are something which is malicious. And whenever we are trying to execute command, it's saying no. So we have managed to upload web shell, but it is actually not of any use, because of the moment we are executing command, it's getting recognized by WAF. So what's the deal? Now, in this case, when I have uploaded web shell and try to execute command, it actually detected because of the presence of cat etc passwd or something like that. And if you have a look on the rule, it will say it's command execution or something like that. So every time WAF will be triggered. So how to tackle this one? In this case, when I try to access a file in etc directory, that case it was triggered. So first one was because of command. This one is because of the directory I am trying to access. So again, we are in dead end. This is the case when I try to download a file. So when I try to download a file, so the content was in HTTP response. So web application firewall just not just inspect the incoming traffic, it also inspect outgoing traffic as well. So in this case, this outgoing traffic firewall rule triggered, and it said, no, you cannot download it because it contains some PHP source code. So in this phase as well, web application firewall said you are not allowed. So we have shell, we cannot do anything. So how to bypass this thing? To bypass this thing, I came up with this thing. Okay, let's say if web application firewall is not able to inspect anything, in that case, it is not going to flag it. But the problem is what to do, how to do. So it's like, okay, we can use something like we are going to put something, we are going to break the pattern in cat, etc, passwd, and whatever the keyword we are inserting in this command, this command is reaching to web shell code, we are replacing those keywords and then combining those strings again and then executing it. But that will be frustrating because you have to do some extra work, and this is not a web shell which we want. We want simply a web shell just like normal one. We are doing something, it's doing some magic automatically, bypassing firewall and then doing stuff automatically. So for this one, I used client-side encryption. People says JavaScript is waste, but no, it's actually a really game changer in this case. What actually I did, I just implemented encryption thing on client side. So whenever I'm going to click this button CM, automatically JavaScript call is triggering, getting this data from this input field, encrypting it, then passing it to server, and then web shell decrypting this data, and then executing the command. So firewall is not aware of anything because encrypted data is not inspectable by firewall. So whenever I'm executing command, this type of data is actually getting crafted by web shell automatically by using JavaScripts. So I just used JavaScript based encryption on client side and then encrypted that data. When this data is going through the firewall, obviously there is no pattern firewall can detect, and it's like, okay, you go. And the moment it is reaching to web shell is saying, okay, I know you are encrypted. This is the secret. This is the IV. I'm going to decrypt it and going to execute it. So this is simple thing. But the thing is, I just don't want to do this type of stuff, but I want more dynamic stuff. Like someone has detected my web shell that, okay, there is a file with name this thing, and they are just coming to that page and they are like, okay, this is the web shell. I know this thing. So anyone who is going to see this interface, they will straight away say, this is the web shell. Now, the thing is, we have managed to bypass firewall mechanism. Now, the next concern is, let's say if someone has detected there is a web shell on this URL, how to hide this web shell or how to make it more dynamic so that they are not able to figure it out that okay, web shell is there. So I came up with another idea. Use this code with the first one, then we can actually combine it, and when we are going to combine this web shell with the first one, so it's like blank page, we are loading web shell and it's visible to you only. For other people, it's just a blank page. Another thing is, let's say if they are able to figure out, okay, something is there, they want to inspect that traffic, so we are not going to hard code any initialization vector or secret key for encryption. We will be generating it dynamically. We will be storing it in session variable, browser, client storage, and it's like the moment we are going to click session end, everything is gone. So they are not able to inspect it. How? So let me demonstrate it. So this is the web shell, which is just having 14 lines of code. It will, we just need to specify the password. We need to specify the URL of the web shell from where this script need to extract that shell and need to load it in session variable. So I am just hosting my web shell in this directory. So this is attacker control box. I need to spin it up. So in this case, we have an interface, but we can make it blank and we can just simply use stuff like this, that okay, we are going to specify post parameters. We need to specify the parameters and it will be launched. So in this case, for demonstration purpose, I have kept interface, but we can make it white interface page as well. And if you are going to specify parameters like this, automatically it will be changed to the shell, whichever the shell we have hosted on this URL. It will be fetching that shell, will be loading it in session variable. That's all. So let me. So yeah, we have this web shell, which is actually containing a lot of stuff to bypass firewall. And before that, I just want to show, okay, so let's say we have managed to bypass web application firewall. We uploaded web shell, but web application firewall is implemented on this server, and whenever I am trying to do something, let's say forbidden. So this is the case. So let's say we have managed to bypass firewall, but in this case it's detecting. Now we are going to use two shells to bypass those restrictions. So this one we will be loading in this web shell. Okay, give me a second, let me show. So let's say this is the same server where we got forbidden error because of presence of firewall. So here on screen you can see when we are going to load this web shell, it will be loading, generating secret key and IV for encryption purpose, and it's not static. So it's dynamic and it will be stored on server in session variable, and on client side it will be stored in local storage. because we don't want to hard code anything. Let's say if this web shell has been leaked, or if you are using this web shell every time, so they will be aware of this thing that, okay, this is the secret key, this is the IV. No, this web shell is actually generating IV and secret every time, and it will be generating those secret and IV key dynamically. So let's say the moment I'm going to click this button, there will be an entry in local storage. This is, here you can see. So it's not the value of these things is not hard coded in code at all. Now, whenever we are going to make a request, so let's say this one. Let me set traffic in WAF so that I can show you. Here you can see command has been executed, and if you inspect the traffic in WAF, there is actually no key. It's just encrypted string. So if someone is going to intercept the traffic, nothing is there. They need to contact to developer who is actually maintaining this server, and developer is the only person who can actually grab this key by echoing those things which are stored in session variable. So it's not easy for SOC guys to get the initialization vector or secret key. And the best part is it is stored in session. This shell is stored in session. Keys are stored in session. If you are going to click session end, it will be destroyed from server. Nothing is there. So this is the best part. And let's say if you want to say, okay, whatever the output it is going to inspect, firewall is in this HTTP response, if firewall is going to inspect, it's nothing. So this rule plus this rule means incoming, outgoing. Firewall is not able to recognize what actually it is. It's completely random thing. This HTTP response is base 64 encoded, but still it's not going to trigger any alarm because it's not containing any source code or any other stuff. So yeah, we need not to worry. And in this case, this is completely encrypted string. Not even SOC guy will come to know what actually it is. And the second thing is, let's say we want to bypass file browsing directory restriction. So let's say etc /. So yeah, you can roam around easily without being detected by web application firewall. It's simple, but it's all about the encryption on client side, on fly. That's all. So yeah, people says JavaScript is waste. No, here JavaScript is spreading magic, and you can actually modify web shell. It's like PHP plus JavaScript, deadly combination. And let's say there is a scenario when we are uploading web shell, we are making request to this file. This file is not a web application, and everyone will come to know, okay, this file was not there, and this is new file. Must be a web shell or something. How to blend in web shell traffic with legit one? So it's like, okay, you are not going to upload a web shell, but you are going to use existing web application files, and it must be like a web shell for you, but for other guys, it should be normal page. So this technique will be actually helping us to making things little bit more complicated for SOC guys, because sometimes you are going to access one file, sometimes you are going to access this file, that file, but you will be actually accessing your web shell. But for in logs, like, okay, this file, this parameter, not making any sense. How? So let's say this is WordPress website. You have managed to break into WordPress console, and in this web application you are uploading a web shell, but you want to upload your web shell in such a way so that in at least by inspecting log, someone not supposed to know that something has been gone wrong, that someone has uploaded web shell and making request to web server using that web shell. So how to do that one? For this type of thing, there is something which we can use. So there are files which are being loaded by WordPress web application. We are going to use those files to inject our code, and for other people this web application will be web application, but for us it will be changed into web shell. How? So let's say this is MVC. So in MVC based web application, we just simply use one file, we are going to include it, and other places another file is getting included. So in the end this file is actually getting included in other places. For example, configuration file. So in this case, what I have done, I have actually injected config file with my shell code. So here, if you have a look, in this configuration file, I have specified the small code. It's actually again undetectable, and if someone is going to perform scanning on this file, nothing is there. So this code is very small. So let me zoom it. So yeah, I have just injected this much code, and using this code I can actually load full web shell. So we know that web application is going to use this configuration file in another places as well, even on not found pages. So this is the advantage. What we are going to do, we are just simply going to make a request to load a web shell in this web application. So let's say here so yeah, so far this is just a web application, but now I have injected a web shell and I want to convert this web application into a web shell. What I have to do, I just need to specify two things. I need to specify a post parameter launch and need to specify shell link. That's all. And later that shell link will be fetched, will be loaded into session variable and will be evaluated. So let's do it. So I am going to intercept the request. I need to change it to post body. So let's say so we are just going to specify these two parameters. We are open. Okay, now you can see we have loaded web shell without uploading it in web application. Now, even if you are going to access any non-existing page, web shell is there. If someone is just inspecting traffic for URLs, analyzing log, they are not going to get anything. So when it comes to inspection, no, it's not going to make any sense. But for other users, it's still a web application. It's still a normal web application. But for us, it's been converted into web shell. And you can do whatever you want. So yeah, you can hide your web shell. You can use just inject web application with small code, load another one, And in that code, you just add some functionalities which are actually making this web shell completely dynamic. Firewall bypassed, SOC team, they are not able to figure it out. They just need to scan entire server, and for this type of thing, they need to perform integration check on files. Okay, this file has been modified, this file has been modified. Then only they can figure it out, otherwise, no, they cannot. So, yeah, this is all about the talk. So this was something related to blending your traffic with legit traffic. And yeah, you can simply make their life a little bit hard. Okay, catch me if you can. Where is my shell? I'm hiding here, I'm hiding there. So yeah. Any question? Or yeah.
Is there any other way to accept a session where you manage to install the shell without repeating the case of feature?
I'm not sure, because session was something very interesting to me, and the reason was you can simply destroy a session by it's like, okay, session destroy, you can destroy the session, and we are actually storing the data in particular directory where session variable will be stored. So let's say in case of Linux server, it will be in var libphp, then session underscore ss underscore whatever the ID. So most of the time people are not going to perform any scanning for that part. So that's why it was very interesting to me to using this approach instead of using another one. And the best part is we can actually use this thing on web application where you can actually simply cannot make call to internet based URL. You can use like same interface, you specify the code, you hold it in session variable again. So that's why if we are going to include a file, there may be restriction regarding open file URL, or if we are going to write shell on another directory, again there will be, it's like we have to delete it or something like that. But in session variable case, we just need to specify, we need to session end, that's all. We need not to worry, okay, we have to delete it or we have to upload it. We just specify, we just execute it, we delete it, and then we just disappear from the server. So that's why it was something very interesting.
When you still don't disappear from the server, because the shell, the initial file, the stuff you used to download the external shell, that's still a file. Right?
Yeah, that's there.
So you need to clean that as well.
Yeah, but it's up to you. So let's say one shell is actually not of our particular use. We are not going to delete it. We just simply say session end, because this file is actually capable of loading any PHP code.
Yeah.
So we need not to. So let's say in my case, I want to upload adminer file. So I'm not going to upload it. I will be just using this thing. This is actually a normal code, and people are not going to suspect it. So that's why I'm just going to store it in server, and for other things I'm going to hold it in session variable, so that the moment I'm going to feel okay, work is done, I'm just going to delete it. So that's why that was the main point. We can go for other things, like we can store web shell in parts as well. So let's say we are just going to break code in snippets, then we are storing it in different files. But I'm actually it's like I'm not going for that approach, because I just need to clean it up every time. But in this case, write, destroy. So that was the main goal.
Is there no way to protect against it? Or do you not have, like, you have some kind of unit or file integrity monitoring looking at those files, looking through that specific type of attack, or not really?
Yeah, so this is the only thing we can do, because this approach is based on something which is just simply injecting a file with small code and then loading other shell using that code. So in the end, we are actually going to tamper with at least one file. And after that, we are storing data in session. So we just can say, okay, if we are going to perform any integrity check, we can detect it easily. But if it come to log analysis and other thing, it may not be possible, because these are the things which actually analyzed by me. But what if someone is actually having more things? So yeah, this is the only thing which we can say, okay, this is something which will work for sure, and we can detect, okay, this is the thing which is there. Okay.
Right.